Hey guys, Mr. B here, and this video is going to be going over some practice problems, just learning and understanding again how we determine ions based on gaining and losing electrons. So this sheet will be linked in the description of this video. It's a PDF, so if you want to type on it, you'll have to open it up using Kami, but either way, just a good thing of practice. So let's just take a look right at the beginning. So it says the charge on an ion will involve a number and a sign. The number will always be the number of electrons involved. So loss of 2 electrons is positive 2. The sign will be positive if electrons, which are negatives, are lost, and negative if electrons or negatives are gained. So the first part here says determine the charges on the following using the diagram above as a guide. And they have some stuff up here, but we're going to use our periodic table, so I'm not going to really look at that. So it says number 1, an atom having lost 2 electrons. All right, so basically, I like to think of it like this. So every atom starts off with a charge of nothing, right? So it's 0, okay? We are losing 2 electrons. So losing means it's going to be 0 minus, okay, because we're losing. And electrons, of course, are negative. So we're going to be losing negative 2. Right, so 0 minus negative 2 will give us a positive 2, right? So an atom that has lost 2 electrons is going to be charge of positive 2 or 2 plus. Okay, there we go, piece of cake. All right, number 2, an atom having lost 6 electrons. So 6 minus negative 6 equals positive 6, right, or 6 plus. So this would have a charge of positive 6. Okay. Let's maybe do every other. So number 4, an atom having gained 3 electrons. All right, so now again, an atom is 0 to begin with, and it's gaining 3 negative electrons. So 0 plus negative 3. That is going to give us an overall charge of 3 minus, or negative 3. So for number 4, this atom would have a charge of 3 minus. All right. Number 6, an atom having gained 2 electrons. Okay, so 0 plus negative 2 equals 2 minus, okay? Because again, it's gaining 2 negative things. So this would have a charge of 2 minus if we're gaining electrons. The best way to think about it too is just think of opposite, okay? So if you're gaining, you become negative. If you're losing, you become positive, okay? It's like opposite thinking. All right, number 8, an atom having gained 4 electrons. All right, so again, atom starts at 0. We are gaining negative 4. Therefore, we are going to make a charge of 4 minus, okay? Because again, we're gaining 4 negative particles. All right, so there's the first ones. All right, let's take a look at part 2. Determine the charges on the following elements based on their locations on the periodic table using the knowledge gained during the RU charge lesson. Okay, well, we haven't done any RU charge lesson, but we're going to be able to do this using our periodic table. So first one we have here is fluorine. Okay, so let's pull up our periodic table. Fluorine is right here, okay? So it's in column 7. That means it has 7 valence electrons. And fluorine wants to have 8, right? Everything, of course, wants to get to this magic 8 number. So that means it needs to gain 1 electron to get there, right? Gain 1, plus 1. Now, I'm not writing plus 1 because it's positive 1. I'm writing plus 1 because we're gaining 1. But remember, electrons are negative. So if we are gaining a negative electron, we are going to make a charge of negative 1. So the charge on fluorine is, of course, going to start at 0. Plus, we are gaining a negative electron, which means that we will have a charge of minus 1 or 1 minus. Why will you not let me write a text box? There we go. Okay, I don't know why I have to do it down there, but whatever. Let's move it up to the right spot here. And there we go. Okay. All right. Number 3, aluminum. All right, so let's find aluminum. Aluminum is here in this column. So this is in column 3. Okay. Now, in column 3, it has 3 valence electrons. It wants to have 8. However, it can do this by one of 2 things. It can either gain 5 to get to 8, or it can lose 3. And by losing 3, all of the valence electrons it has in this third row will be gone, and then it will have 8 valence electrons in this in this second row, okay, in the second energy level. So if it gets rid of all these ones, then it's like these ones don't even exist, and then it has 8 in the second energy level. So basically what I'm trying to say is aluminum can either gain 5 electrons or it can lose 3 electrons. And it is a lot easier to lose 3 than it is to gain 5. Okay? It's difficult to gain 5 electrons, but losing the ones you already have, or at least when it's only 3 of them, is a lot easier. So aluminum is going to lose 3. Now again, I have -3 because it's losing 3, not negative. Okay? If we're losing electrons, that makes us positively charged. So remember that aluminum has a charge of 0, but we are losing 3 negative particles. So 0, right, charge is 0, minus 3 negatives gives us a charge of a positive 3 overall. So the charge on aluminum will be 3 plus. All right, number 5, nitrogen. Okay, so nitrogen is in column number 5. Okay, it says column 5. Here's nitrogen right there. So it can either gain 3 to get to 8, or it can lose 5. Okay, it's always easier to go with the smaller of the two numbers. So it's easier to gain 3 than it is to lose 5. Again, we are adding 3 electrons. We're not becoming positively charged. I have a +3 because we're gaining 3. But remember that electrons are negatively charged. So if we are gaining 3 negative particles, we become negatively charged as well, right? So nitrogen has a charge of 0 to begin with. However, we are gaining 3 negative particles, right? 0 plus -3 gives us a charge of -3 or 3 minus. So the charge that nitrogen, will be 3 minus as an ion. All right, number 7, hydrogen. Oh, sorry, wrong one there, wrong window. Hydrogen here is in column 1. So it has 1 valence electron. It can either gain 7. Well, actually, sorry, it doesn't need to gain 7. Hydrogen is actually in the first row. So hydrogen is an exception to the rule in the fact that it actually only needs to have 2 electrons. It doesn't need 8. It's not big enough to actually hold 8. So we can either gain 1 or lose 1. And again, gain 1 as in we are adding an electron, not +1 and losing. Basically, since it's in column 1, it's more likely to lose 1 electron. So it will lose 1, which means that it will become +1 because we are losing negative particles. Okay, so hydrogen starts off at 0. We are losing -1. So 0 minus -1. Okay, that is going to give us a +1 as an answer. So +1 charge, which means that again, hydrogen will be 1 plus as an ion. Okay. All right. So I'm not going to do the rest of them here. You can do those ones on your own, but hopefully you're starting to get the hang of what we're doing here. All right. Moving down. It says answer the following questions based on knowledge gained from the RU charge loss. Okay, whatever. Number 1, will metals lose or gain electrons? Remember on the periodic table, the staircase, which is like right here, all these elements over here are all metals. And metals tend to lose electrons. And when they lose electrons, they will become positive cations. So our answer, will metals lose or gain electrons? They will lose electrons. We're going to do like every other. So what is the name of a positive ion? All right, so we learned this in the chapter, but cats have paws, right? So cations are positive. So the name of a positive ion is a cation. Negative ions are called anions. Number 5, how many electrons are contained in a completed outer shell for period 1? All right, so periods are rows, okay? So groups are columns, periods are rows. So what this question is asking, let's erase all of this stuff because it's getting a little bit too cluttered here, okay? So what this question is asking, how many electrons are contained in a completed outer shell for period 1? So basically, for elements that are in the first row right here, which would be hydrogen and helium, which sits right here, even though it's not drawn, okay, hydrogen and helium. How many electrons can they have total if they were to be full? Well, they can have one here and a second one there, and then that's it. Because after helium over here, there's nothing, right? There's nothing after helium. Even though, of course, this is column 8 on the periodic table, this 8 only applies to basically everything that is below helium. So from here down, everything can have 8. But helium is not included in that. Neither is hydrogen. So at most, they can only have 2 electrons. Okay. So how many electrons are contained in a completed outer shell for period 1? 2. 2 electrons. That's how many are contained. All right, guys. So that is it for this one. I just wanted to do some practice with you and just take a look at some of the different concepts from this chapter. Hopefully that made some sense and it helped. But again, this is just some practice. So there are other questions on this sheet that deal with some of the blocks and F block, D block, stuff like that, electron configuration stuff from the previous chapter. But I'm not going to answer these. And if you do this practice, I wouldn't worry about answering them either. However, there is an answer key at the very, very bottom. So if you do want to try answering them just to see if you're doing things right, by all means, go for it. So anyway, hopefully that helps. Again, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to email me and reach out. All right, guys, that's it. I'm Mr. B. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.